Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Cindie Chavez here. Today is Wednesday, August the 1st, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, your first daily dose of happy for this hump day. August the 1st, my God, we've actually made it to August. I mean, this year just moves right along. I'm continuously amazed how quickly it moves. Wow.
You said we actually made it to August. Were you thinking we might not make it to August?
Yeah, that's true. The way I said that did sound that way, didn't it?
Like, oh, I know. Isn't that amazing? August. Incredible.
It shows how perception is just so subjective. And even within one sentence, I can switch myself from, oh, it's going really slow to, oh, it's going really quick.
That's right.
Yeah, it's all subjective. It's all fun. So how are you doing? I mean, anything exciting happened in the last 24 hours since we talked?
Well, something that's I'm excited about. I submitted an entry to a book. I don't know if it's going to be accepted yet, but yes, I do.
Yeah. All right.
The deadline was August 1st, and I got my submission in yesterday and just have been feeling really good about it. So
what kind of book?
It's a book on cartomancy.
Okay.
And
I have no idea what that is.
It's divining with cards. So tarot readers.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Oracle cards and Lenormand cards and playing cards, but this one's a tarot book. So a lot of the people that are submitting to it are very, very well known in that segment of industry. So it's exciting.
Okay. All right. Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, then we're going to be holding in the highest possible regard the idea that your submission gets accepted.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to have creative projects.
It is.
I'm thinking we've touched on that a little bit in the book that we're reading, and we're probably going to touch on it a little bit more. I know I peeked ahead one page. And I don't know, just the sentence I read, oh, this is going to be exciting. Of course, I'm really enjoying this book.
It is good. This is a really good book, I have to say.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like every podcast we do when we wind up for that day's podcast, whatever we've spoken about, just fodder for me to like be mulling over the rest of the day. Like I love it because keeping these ideas kind of top of mind, I think it just improves your life. So.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. Now I have to ask you, are you still doing your 1,000 affirmations?
Yes. Today will be day 10.
Aha. Will there be a day 11 though? That's the question.
Yeah, well, I always just set the intention to do 10 days because 1,000 affirmations a day is a lot. And so I never have an intention that I'm going to keep going, but I may change the affirmation.
Oh, to what?
Keep going. I don't know. I really liked I Feel Rich.
Mm-hmm.
You
got good results with it, that's for sure. I mean, you got great results when you did that one.
Yeah, and it was so short.
Like
it's easy to get 1,000 of them in.
Right,
like even, it's funny because I feel rich and I love my life. You wouldn't think there's that much difference, but it's a little different when you're doing 1,000 of them.
Yeah, it's basically one more syllable that you're doing 1,000 times.
But I don't know. I may just do a little bit of brainstorming and see what other ones I come up with. I don't know.
Okay. Well, hey, you've already gotten results out of it, so we know that it's been effective within the short period of time that you've been doing it.
Yeah, it's been really effective. And the thing I love most is that what's really funny is that it automatically pops up into my head. And both when I'm enjoying something and when I'm not enjoying something.
Okay.
It's like, well, the whole idea was loving your life, whatever your life is. Not, I'll love my life when XYZ happens.
True, right.
And not, oh boy, I really love these parts of my life, but oh, that part of my life is really giving me a fit lately. No, it's not any of that. It's just I love my life because it's all my life. And so what's funny is that there have been plenty of times when I've been enjoying something and I say, to myself, it just pops into my head. Oh, I love my life. Like, this is so nice. But there also have been a few times when I've been aggravated about something or, unhappy with something, and it'll pop up. I love my life.
It's a little more challenging in those cases. That's true.
Well, I don't know. It seems to help immediately. I'm like, oh good. Yeah, that's right.
Well, then it's working really well, because that's really the best thing, is when you're able to deal with the little, the small things that happen that kind of bug us, and to basically flick them away with an affirmation. That's really good. That's very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the part I like the best, is that it immediately seems to level out, whatever it is that's going on. It's like, yes, that's true. I do love my life, and this just is what it is. Mm-hmm. It's all part of my life. And so, yeah, I love it, and I can love it, and I can choose to love it. And so it's a good one.
Yeah, well, it seems to be working well for you. That's why I'm really going to be interested to see if you're going to keep doing it, if you're going to keep after it. Because I remember the last time you did it for 10 days and you stopped, and then you thought back and said, geez, I wonder if I should have kept going. I'm hoping this time you say, I'm going to keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I definitely keep up the affirmations. I just don't usually do that many of them.
Oh, well, that's all right then. I mean, you don't have to do 1,000.
Well, I know. It does, but here's the thing.
You can do 963.
It's like a kickstart. You know?
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
When I have made the intention to do 1,000 a day for 10 days, I've noticed a big surge of results. Mm. And those results generally keep on going. And I kind of keep it going with affirmations, just not that level of intensity of 1,000 a day, because I don't want to get burnt out on it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I keep running into. Whenever I try to do some kind of affirmation, it feels really good and I'm liking it, but I lose interest in doing it because it's the same one over and over again. Mm-hmm. The story never changes. It's always the same story.
Yeah. Well, you can create a string of them and make the practice of saying them the thing and not the actual affirmation.
Well, true. Yeah. And I've tried doing that. I haven't gotten it to the point yet where I'm satisfied with my ability to just create the story ad hoc as I'm going and make it feel like a real story. It's still a little bit stilted. It's a series of phrases. I love my life. I feel rich. Things are going good. I feel better and better. I mean, they're all nice things to say, but it's not really a story that goes anywhere. It just kind of just stays right there.
It's funny. One of my favorite affirmation stories, there's a man named, I don't want to get his name wrong, but I think it's Shad Helmstetter. I think that was his name. He wrote a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself.
Oh, nice.
And this was a long time ago. I mean, I want to say I read it 20 years ago or something, but his story was really unique because, and this is what I thought was so great about it. He started this practice of affirmations by he would get up in the morning and he would write them out. And I think he was writing them on index cards. And he said he wrote an affirmation, and he was trying to lose weight. So he was doing affirmations about fitness and, weight and health. Mm-hmm. Right. And he would write it on a card, and the next day he would add another one, and he would read those two, and the next day. But pretty soon he got this big stack of them, and he was like, it was taking so much time to go through the whole stack every morning and read them all. And so he had this idea that he would record them and just play. He had this little recorder. He would just play it back in the morning while he was, shaving and getting ready. Right. Brushing his teeth and all that. So he recorded all of these affirmations about fitness and health and weight loss and all of that. And he would just play them every morning in the bathroom while he was doing all his getting ready stuff in the morning. Well, the funny thing was that his bathroom had double sinks, and his wife would be in there getting ready as well. And his wife started losing weight.
That's great.
I mean, he did too, but he was like, she wasn't even doing them. She was just overhearing mine.
Oh, that's funny. That
So
is funny.
I kind of was laughing because this morning, sometimes, sometimes you get here first and sometimes I get here first. And sometimes, and I always unmute my mic the second that I get here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, one day Walt's going to pop in and he's going to hear me over here doing affirmations. I love my life. I love my life.
Well, if you do that, then I'll be grateful because I'll be getting it vicariously. So that's wonderful.
Well, I mean, that's what made me think of it right now. It's like, well, if overhearing affirmations, it's kind of like, are you familiar with EFT or tapping?
Peripherally, I've never really delved into it, but yes, I'm aware of it.
Well, when you tap, it's a system where you are tapping with your fingers on the meridian points on your head, on your face, on your collarbone, on your wrist, on the side of your hand, and you just go through that, like maybe 7, let's say, taps, tap, 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 tap. And as you're tapping, you're saying an affirmation or you're stating what your problem is, and then you're giving affirmations to deal with it. It's very, very effective, and it's very easy to learn. But a lot of people will tap with a therapist. So the therapist is tapping and leading you through the tapping exercise, or with a group. Like a bunch of people will get together to tap together, and they call it shared benefits because so many people, a therapist will be tapping with a client or patient and get the benefit.
Wow.
It's kind of the same thing. So it's really interesting how vibrations and energy and words affect us.
We're certainly learning a lot more and more about that. In fact, I was having a conversation, private IM conversation with someone on Facebook just this morning. He was a skeptic and asking for proof, and so forth. And I was giving him, straight information. There's no proof yet. I think that proof is going to come probably during this century. I've said this before. I think it's going to come in this century in the form of science discovering that they're able to detect source energy. And I think it's going to be a really huge breakthrough when it happens. But coming out of that will be the ability to prove all kinds of things. But until then, we kind of take this stuff on faith. I mean, we're listening to some non-physical beings who are, basically transmitting messages through an earthling named Esther Hicks. That's pretty out there.
Yeah, but you know what? This is not a new message, and it's not unique to Abraham. I mean, this message has preceded Esther Hicks and Abraham, and has been around for a really long time. And I think there is proof. I mean, even in the science community, what about all the work that they're doing with quantum mechanics? And
well, I think there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. I don't think anything has been proven from a scientific perspective yet.
Okay, well, there have been some huge discussions in my house in the last week about circumstantial evidence, and it's this. Pretty much every case is proven by a big pile of circumstantial evidence.
Okay.
It's rarely direct evidence. And then people use that term to mean something exactly opposite, to mean, we don't really have anything. It's all just circumstantial. Almost all evidence is circumstantial evidence. So I think we do have some proof. And the guy that wants proof needs to just go do the exercises in Pam Grout's book, and he'll get an owl or something, and then he will have his own proof. I think that's
possibly.
Truth, though, right?
I think there's also the other side to it, though, and that is if he has as much doubt as he's indicating that he has, he could go do Pam's exercise and get a whole bunch more doubt. And unless he recognizes that's what he's getting, he'll be another denier.
Oh, maybe that will be his proof.
Yeah.
I mean, in other words, I think that we find what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right? And it's like I don't need to have any proof because I have my own proof. And, it's kind of like you read medical, stories or whatever, and they're like, well, it's just anecdotal, right? It's like, well, it's like when it's in your own life and you've experienced it and it's your experience, then that's pretty powerful proof for you.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think it varies, too, from individual to individual, because everybody has different thresholds, so to speak, of what amount of evidence they need before they finally consider it to be satisfactory to them. I mean, you can have one person, they see one example of something, and for them it's proven. You can have another person, they need to have it 50 times in a row, and then maybe they'll consider it. And then there's everybody else in between. Everybody has a different belief about it. Because ultimately, I think there's some validity to what you're saying. All evidence, in a sense, is circumstantial because all evidence is involved in circumstances. And when I say that I don't think it's proven from a scientific perspective, what I'm saying is people who see themselves as scientists have not proven it to their own satisfaction. And I think that has to be respected because it's like anything else. The message is only useful when you're ready for it. Clearly, they're not ready for it.
Yes, and everybody loves empirical evidence, right? Like,
of course.
We like to have that. And I think that's one of the things, actually, that I loved about Pam's book, right? Is for people that haven't read it, it's a series of exercises. And in the book, she has like lab sheets. It's like you put the date and you put, and it actually created in me anyway, a very easy way to be not attached to the outcome. Because as a scientist, we'll go in and say, this is the experiment, and log it down. And this is what we're doing. And this is the date. And this is how many we used and how many, and it's like, whatever happens, happens. And you just jot it down and make note of what happened. And then you go to the next one. And so to me, that lends itself to non-resistance, which is, helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really
so
is.
I like the way, and can we call that science?
Well, we can call it science. It doesn't mean somebody else will call it science. It doesn't mean that someone who is a biologist or a physicist will call it science, but we can call it science.
Well, I think there's a lot of work being done to discover more and more knowledge about energy and vibration, and we'll see it.
Oh, I think so. I really do mean that
already.
I think that source energy is going to be discovered as something measurable and detectable by mainstream science within this century. I really do believe that's going to happen. And when that does happen, first of all, I predict that they won't know what they've got. I think they're going to think they just discovered some other energy in the universe, like heat waves or something like that, and it's not going to really get through to them that they have found something that is truly staggeringly important. It will eventually arrive at that point, but I don't think it's going to be the initial reading on it. So it may be a while, even after they discover it. It may be a while before we even hear about it, because they're still trying to grapple with what the hell is this thing.
I love that you said measurable. Yeah, that's.
Well, that's the big thing with scientists. Scientists want stuff that's measurable. They want that. I mean, is there anything in science that the first thing that the scientist does is not to measure it? I've never heard of anything in science where they didn't want to measure it.
Yeah. Well, I think we measure everything,
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, we also judge everything and label everything, and sometimes that can be a detriment, but sometimes it's just the way we work, and it's that I think we have an innate desire to put order to things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you.
And we have an orderly universe,
Thank goodness. Makes it easier. and I have to admit, knowing this particular bit about how the law of attraction works and deliberate creation and the art of allowing and all that, boy, did that fill in some gaps for me, because before I thought the universe was insane. But once I learned this stuff, all of a sudden it all made sense again.
It did make a lot of things fall into place here too. It's like, oh, I get it. So we've been reading Money and the Law of Attraction.
We have.
Learning to attract wealth, health, and happiness. It's kind of funny. We started out with tools, then we went to money, and then we went to health, and then wellness and body. And now we're back around to what feels like money, but I think that's only because we're talking about career.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so often maybe not Abraham, but we tend to connect those things. But before we dive in today, I wanted to remind our new listeners, because we've got some new co-hosts as well. Congratulations.
That's true. Yeah. Patty and Linda are both joining us and have done their first shows with us and are loving it. They're loving it just as much as we do. That's
so good to know. Yeah. Welcome to both of them. And so along with them, I'm sure we're also getting some new listeners, and just the new listeners that we happen upon anyway. And we would love for you to subscribe so you don't miss a podcast.
Absolutely. Because as we keep repeating, most of our listeners are subscribers because they love the show so much. In fact, did you see the email that I sent yesterday, Cindy?
I saw it late last night. Yes, I did.
I sent it to all the co-hosts. This is actually a message that we received via Instagram that I got it 20 days ago and didn't see it. I apologize profusely to the person who sent it. Her name is Rowena. And her message was such a great message. It's so good. I hope she won't mind because she says she's a little bit on the shy side, but I hope she doesn't mind. I'm going to read it because it's such a great message. She wrote, "I'm about a week and a half behind in listening to your podcast now. Now, I know your dream is to be on 24/7, but I would hate that. I'd have FOMO, which is fear of missing out. I've been listening from Australia since maybe December when it was just you and David. I just wanted to let you know, after Cindie mentioned the person reaching out on Instagram, that you and your crew inspire me every day. I listen when falling asleep. Hopefully my subconscious picks up on anything I miss. And when I go walking, and even in the middle of the night if I have insomnia. I'm definitely one of those more than once a day people. Going daily was such a great idea. You are always at the top of my list. And honestly, I don't even listen to anything else anymore because I don't need to. I gave you a shout out in this new digital product I made, which you'd never know about and not understand where any traffic came from, as it would come from within an app on their iPad. But thank you for being so inspirational and sharing everything that you do. I just sent you a copy of the product, but it's a particular niche thing, and if you need you need an iPad and a lot of free time. But if you're really interested, I can do it." And also, you and Wendy should start using your Instagram accounts. I love that message. That was great. But that really indicates, that's one more example of, talk about circumstantial evidence. We get a lot of it, of just how many ways our show is positively impacting people. So it's a long-winded way of saying it really is worthwhile to subscribe. And to do it, it's real simple. You just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. The instructions are right below the player that you see there on the homepage. That's the player for listening to the live broadcast. So if you want to listen to us live when we're doing this, or even maybe call in and talk to us, that's where you would do it. And the schedule is actually down below, further down on the page, so you can see when we're doing the live broadcast. But by all means, do subscribe. It takes about a minute to do. It's really easy. It's free. And when you're done, you get all of our episodes, all 45 a month, coming right to your device every single month. So please subscribe.
Yay.
And share too.
Yes, subscribe, share, and reach out and say hello. Call in, send us a message on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, or email us, or use the contact form, or whatever. But if you could hear Walt's excitement as he read that note, then you know how happy we get when someone reaches out.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good to hear from people who are listening. It's that connection. So.
And Rowena, thanks so much for being one of the people who've written in, because, I mean, you made our day when you sent that. So thank you so much. Of course, she won't hear this for another week and a half because she's a week and a half behind in the podcast, but she'll hear it eventually.
Yes. Well, so today we are diving back in, but I wanted to back up just to the italicized part that we read yesterday because I thought it was so important. We've been talking about the idea of career, and also the idea of that in our community, in our world, that we start thinking about it at a really young age, like with people saying, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" and how often we have this idea that we have to pick one thing and then we just have to do it for the rest of our life, and that it is supposed to be the thing that brings in, resources to take care of us. And I thought it was interesting. We always come back to being in alignment first. We always come back to, but how do you feel? It's like we focus on doing. And we bring that back to, but let's talk about feeling and being, not just action all the time.
Right.
When you pay attention to the way you feel and you practice the self-empowering thoughts that align with who you really are, you will offer an example of thriving that will be of tremendous value to those who have the benefit of observing you. You cannot get poor enough to help poor people thrive, or sick enough to help sick people get well. You only ever uplift from your position of strength and clarity and alignment.
And that last sentence, I was thinking that's exactly what any medical doctor will tell you. If I get sick, I can't help people get well, so I can't get sick. Personally for the medical community, right?
They can't get sick. Yeah. And you mentioned that before, and I was like, that's so true. Like, they're exposed to sick people day in and day out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are.
And they stay well.
That's the amazing
for the
thing.
most
They
part.
stay well. That's the part that medical science has never been able to figure out to their satisfaction anyway. Why is it that you have all these contagious diseases and these medical professionals hang around all these people who have contagious diseases and they don't catch them? How can that be?
Or we'll say they have a lower incident of catching.
Lower, because some do catch it, and that satisfies the researchers. Like, oh, good, the law of averages is working.
Well, today this little subtitle is the law of attraction and career. So of course, we want to know how the law of attraction affects this topic. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Abraham says to Jerry, because they're having a conversation, Abraham says, what's the primary reason for the desire for a career?
Well, Jerry responds, I read a study done recently that concluded that what most people are looking for is prestige. In other words, if offered the choice of having a higher title or more money, most chose the title.
Abraham says those who are seeking prestige have replaced their own guidance system with seeking approval from others. And that is a rather unfulfilling way to live, because the onlookers you are seeking to please do not sustain long-lasting attention upon you. That study is very likely accurate, because most people do care more about what others think about them than they do about how they personally feel. But there can be no consistency in that form of guidance. Some people worry that if they selfishly consider what makes them happy above all other things, they will be uncaring and unfair to those around them. But we know that the opposite is true. When you care about your alignment with Source, which is represented by the way you feel, and you work to maintain your connection, anyone who is then your object of attention receives benefit from your gaze. You cannot uplift another unless you are connected to the stream of well-being yourself. We understand that it can feel very good when others hold you as their object of attention, as they are feeling appreciation for you, because they are then doing exactly what we were just explaining to you. In their appreciation of you, they are connected to Source and showering it all over you. But to ask others to always be in alignment with Source and to always hold you as their object of attention so that you can be showered with the well-being they are providing is not practical, because you cannot control their connection and you will not always be their only object of attention. You do, however, have absolute control over your own connection to Source. And when your dominant intent is to maintain your connection while leaving others out of that equation, then you will be free of trying to please others, which you cannot consistently do, and you will be able to maintain a consistent connection and feeling of well-being. An interesting thing to note is those who care about how they feel, who consistently hold themselves in an attitude of good feeling emotions, who are connected to Source and flowing positive thoughts outward toward whatever they're focused upon, are usually seen by others to be attractive, and they are often the recipients of much appreciation and approval. You just cannot get the approval you seek from the place of needing it or from the place of the lack of it. An office with a wonderful window view or a parking place with your name on it or an impressive title accompanying your name cannot fill the void caused by not being in alignment with who you really are. When you achieve that alignment, those things feel less important. But then, interestingly enough, they come anyway.
My first reaction when you started reading that section was that Jerry has a completely different perspective. Jerry and also the people in that survey have a completely different perspective on money versus prestige than I have, and than a lot of other people seem to have. Because if it were me choosing between prestige and money, I'll take the money, honey. I mean, the prestige, forget it. I'm not really caring about that at all.
Well, I thought it was so funny. I don't know if you heard me. I was like,
Yeah.
when they said that most people wanted the title instead of the money, I thought, huh. And I haven't really thought about it. I don't know. I think I just want to be in alignment.
Yeah, right.
If in other words, and I say that meaning, if I was making some choice, I don't know how often people actually literally make that choice between the title and the money, but it may happen.
I don't know either. That's the other thing. I mean, who's actually sitting around trying to figure out what they're going to do with their career and saying, well, let's see, do I want to go for the money or do I want to go for the prestige? I mean, that's never on anybody's to-do list.
Well, but I do know that occasionally someone will have more than one opportunity, and one seems a little bit prestigious. Well, this one I would be the big title, but this one over here, it's not as glamorous, but it makes more money.
I suppose, yeah.
And for me, I can't say, "Oh, I would definitely go for the money," or, "Well, the title's important to me." I would have to say one of them is going to feel more aligned.
True. Yeah, that's very true.
And that's the one.
Because ultimately, it isn't even the money or the prestige, like you say, it's the alignment. And the alignment is what is the place that we have to be in order to find what our passion is. Because really, that was the big lesson that I've learned so far in my life. It isn't the money that is the most important thing. I tried to make money the most important thing, and that doesn't work. And I know, just from my own limited experience with prestige, that prestige it's wasted on me. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't have the effect that it seems to have on others. But finding what I love to do, that's been the thing that I really needed to accomplish, in a sense, to find in my life. And I have found it with the podcast. It isn't a career in the sense of making money yet, but boy, is it so much more fun and so much more enjoyable and so much more fulfilling to do something that you love doing than to do something you don't love doing, no matter what you're being paid, no matter what the prestige is.
Right. And, I also think that as we go through life and have more experiences and choose, different things, whether they're connected to career or not, we change. And so then our alignment changes. Something that I was totally aligned with 5 years ago, I may not be anymore. And that's okay.
Well, Abraham was alluding to that not in this section, but in the previous section that we read yesterday. They were alluding to the fact that, it's almost kind of crazy to expect you're going to want to do just one thing for the rest of your life.
Right. And I agree with that. Surely. And,
I mean, that actually sounds like a kind of hell, really.
Well, I mean, for some people, I think it may be true. Like, we do hear stories about people that from the time they were a small child were passionate about a certain thing, and they've done it their whole life, and they're still passionate about it, and they love it, and they're the expert on it, and they're totally wrapped up in it. And I think that's fantastic. I also think that's not the story that will play out for everyone. So it's a place where this whole idea, I remember when my kids, who are both adults now, but when they were younger, my oldest knew what he wanted to do from the time he was really, really young.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny is that he's not doing that anymore, and he's just in his 30s. So,
right.
But my youngest didn't know what he wanted to do, and he felt like something was wrong with him. Like, he came to me one day and said, I just, how come I don't know the thing I want to do? I was like, because you're 8 years old. Like, it will happen. But since his brother was like very clear on what he wanted to do, but not all of us are.
It's true. And I would say there's also an incompleteness to the story of those who find their passion and that's all they end up doing. Because I think there are people who do end up finding something they love and they keep doing it and doing it. I question the idea that that's all that they do. I think what actually happens is they keep doing the thing they love doing, but they also diversify. They end up doing other things in their lives. And other things become important to them.
Agree, because we are multifaceted.
We are.
It's our nature to want to expand, right? Just like nature itself, it's nature's nature to expand and to grow. And so we're always going to keep finding new interests and wanting to do different things.
I mean, Louise and I know people from where, when she was in her 20s, she lived at a ski resort. She lived at Mount Snow in Vermont. And she was there for, I think, 3 years, something like that. There are people that she knew then who are still there. They've lived there all their lives. And they love skiing. But it's not, skiing isn't the only thing they do. They're still there. They still like to ski, but they also have other interests. And some of them have opened businesses. Some of them have opened restaurants or construction companies or whatever. You know, they're doing various things outside of skiing, but they're still doing the skiing.
I think that would be really amazing to be able to, like Louise, to be able to kind of stand back, because like she's not there, but she's watching all these people and what they're doing, and that they're still they're still there. You know, it's got to be, wow, that's kind of amazing.
Well, what's even more amazing is when she found out that one of the kids that she used to take care of when they were very young ended up being an Olympic gold medalist from Mount Snow, Vermont. So,
oh, that's awesome. Well, that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah,
it's like it's cool, you know, to watch. We all do it where we watch people that we've known for a long time, and maybe that we used to live near, and now we don't, watch how their lives unfold. But she's got like a whole group of them that are still in one place.
Oh yeah, yeah. And, well, there's actually two friends in particular that we often go visit, who are basically from that same community, and she knew them during the time that she was there, and it's just they just never left, and they wouldn't leave. They wouldn't want to leave. I mean, it's pretty clear they don't want to leave. They want to stay there for the rest of their lives, which is cool.
So we're talking. This next section is the section I got excited about. Filling my void through service.
Okay. Well, let's see
because
what it's about.
I mean, I guess because I'm in a helping profession.
True.
And I'm curious about this. So Jerry's got a statement he makes and a question.
Yeah, so during my 20 years in a wide variety of positions in the entertainment industry, he says, I really had a lot of fun. The entertainment, my God, this guy had an amazing life. He did all kinds of things.
He did. Talk about not just doing one thing forever.
Yeah. So anyway, in the entertainment business, I really had a lot of fun. It required only a few hours of my time, and I had a lot of adventurous challenges because I had so many new experiences. And yet, I often told people that I felt like I was walking across the sands of life, but when I looked back, there were no tracks. In other words, I felt that I was bringing my audiences some temporary pleasure, but I wasn't leaving them with anything of permanent value. Do we all inherently have those drives to uplift others? Do they come from another level of ourselves, or do we pick those intentions up from others around us once we're born into this physical environment?
Abraham says, you are born wanting to be of value, wanting to uplift, and you are born understanding that you have value. Most of that feeling of lack that you were describing was not about your not being able to provide lasting value to others, but because your thoughts were keeping you away from your own personal alignment. It works like this. When you are in alignment with who you really are, with your inner being or source, you cannot help but uplift those with whom you come in contact. And in that alignment, you do not notice so many others who are not in alignment. The law of attraction does not surround you with dissatisfied people when you are satisfied. And the law of attraction does not surround you with satisfied people when you are dissatisfied. So this is my understanding of that when I tell people that the whole world is a mirror for them.
Okay, elaborate on that.
Well, Abraham's saying the law of attraction does not surround you with dissatisfied people when you are satisfied. And the law of attraction does not surround you with satisfied people when you are dissatisfied. Well, I think that those dissatisfied people are still there. You're just not noticing them. Or vice versa.
I think so, too. I think there's a lot to be said for that from a scientific perspective. because science has been able to determine that I can't remember what the name of the thing is at the base of the spine, or the excuse me, at the base of the skull at the spine that provides a filtering mechanism, and whatever we tend to think about the most is what we tend to notice the most.
Right, it's a reticular activating system.
Yeah, the RAS, right. Well, that's science's explanation about what goes on in that way. But yeah, I think that phenomenon is prevalent, and all you have to do to test it is, there are a lot of ways to test it, but one of my favorite ways to test it is to say the name of a color, and the instant that you say the name of that color, you see it everywhere. It doesn't matter which color. So if I say red, all of a sudden I'm seeing red. And I don't mean that I'm mad.
And it's not that every other color in my office just disappeared.
Right.
It's just that that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah. So, just because we put the word red into your head and you have an association with a color on that.
So you simply cannot compensate for your own misalignment by offering more time or energy or action. That's such an important thing to remember, this one sentence, because we try to do it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? When we're not in alignment, so we try to work harder, do more. You cannot find ideas that are effective enough to make up the difference.
I want to point something out. Joel Elston, who does the Thursday morning podcast, is very much of a doer. But as he and I focused on a week or two ago, even when he's doing, as he's taking his actions, he is aligning himself. Because he recognizes if he does without aligning, all he ends up doing is screwing himself up, really. So you can still be a doer. You can still do things. But like this sentence says, you can't compensate for misalignment by doing. You can't
we still take action.
Yeah.
We just want it to be inspired action. And inspired action only comes from alignment.
Right. And my only point about him was he takes the action first and then gets inspired during it, whereas most people do it in reverse order. But it doesn't really matter what the order is.
Well, and it also sounds to me, though, like if he takes action first and isn't aligned, then he makes sure he gets himself into alignment.
As he's doing it. Yes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think we all have to do that to some degree.
Oh,
because
I think so.
Alignment is not static.
True.
It's fluid, right? I mean, we all know that from 1 minute to the next, we can be aligned and then not.
Mm-hmm.
We know that because from 1 minute to the next, our emotions can be. We've all heard either used the word ourselves or heard someone else use the word roller coaster to describe something emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because up, down.
Yeah.
So I think that, but I love this sentence. You simply cannot compensate for your own misalignment by offering more time or energy or action.
Mm.
You cannot find ideas that are effective enough to make up the difference. Your value to those around you hinges upon only one thing, your personal alignment with Source. And the only thing you have to give to another is an example of that alignment, which they may observe, then desire, and then work to achieve. But you cannot give it to them. The entertainment
that last sentence is a really important sentence. I find that one is at the foundational base of unanswered questions for so many people when they're asking about, how does this law of attraction work? Why can't I get the results that I want? Why am I so frustrated by this? Why is it that it seems so hit or miss? All the different kinds of questions that you get about it from people who are still trying to figure how the whole thing works. Let me read the sentence again. And the only thing you have to give to another is an example of that alignment, which they may observe, then desire, and then work to achieve, but you cannot give it to them.
I thought about the guy you were talking with before the podcast.
Which
when
guy?
I read that.
Which guy are we talking about?
The person that was skeptical that wanted proof.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Well, that's
and
an
I
example.
think the reason why they want proof is what this says right here, is that they observe and desire, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why people get interested. They read about it, they hear about it, they possibly think, well, that would be nice.
Or there are the people who want to use law of attraction like a ray gun and get it to basically coerce other people to do what they want those other people to do or behave the way they want those other people to behave. But it's the same problem
not
all
just
over.
Law of attraction, all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I mean, that's one of the things when I'm teaching people about setting boundaries, I always say, but boundaries are for you. They're not to change someone else's behavior.
Good point. Very good point.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you can't give it to anyone else. You can just give it to yourself, and then people observe it.
And interestingly enough, you can actually set a bad example. I mean, you can do that. You can just, be out of alignment and be unhappy and so forth and serve as a bad example. But the key word in the description there that I saw anyway is the only thing you have to give to another is an example of that alignment.
Yeah. Well, much of the world is in that other spot you just mentioned.
Exactly. Yeah.
Being out of alignment and not being a great example of how to use that alignment consciously.
I would even throw in the word value here. The only thing of value is the stuff that you experience when you're in alignment. When you're out of alignment, it's not of value to you, so why can it be of value to anybody else?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So Abraham tells Jerry the entertainment that you provided to your audiences was actually a much bigger gift than you were able to acknowledge at the time. For you were providing distraction from troubling things. And in the absence of your audience members' attention to their problems, they did achieve, in many cases, temporary alignment with Source. But you cannot go with each of them, holding yourself as their only object of attention in order to maintain their good feeling. Everyone is responsible for the thoughts they think and the things that they choose as their objects of attention.
Interesting thing about that, too, is that the people particularly who want to use the law of attraction as a way to make somebody else be a better way or behave in a better way or behave the way they want them to believe, the way they want them to behave, the motivation behind that is a messy motivation. But the message here, I think, really clears it up nicely for those who are willing to listen to it, which is everyone is responsible for the thoughts they think, and the thoughts they choose as their objects of attention. That pretty much undermines the whole idea that you can use this as a tool against somebody else. You can't. Because the responsibility individually resides with each of us for ourselves.
Yes. We're responsible for our own thoughts, for our own responses, for our own feelings, our own emotions. That's all on us.
So essentially, if you're going to be using this stuff to try to manipulate others, you're setting yourself up for failure because there's no way you're going to succeed. The only time you'll ever experience even something close to success is when the other person happens to be in alignment with what you're thinking anyway. And then you say, oh, geez, it worked. But it didn't actually work. You just happened to be in the same place they were, so to speak. But the moment that they decide to go to a different place from you, all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore.
That's right. It's like where he said, but you can't go with them.
Yeah.
You can distract them for a little while from their focusing on their problems, and that's useful, but you can't be you are not their source. I mean, that's really what it is,
that's right? Yeah, exactly.
And it's one of the reasons why I think it's so useful to work on changing some of our language. And the first thing that comes to mind is the idea that, we hear people say that a person or a thing makes them happy, makes them sad, makes them angry. Oh, right. She really makes me mad, right? It's like, no, you make yourself mad.
That's right.
you get to choose that. Because then what that's saying is that if she would just change her behavior, then I'd be happy.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I think there's also another side to this, which is we have a tendency these days as a worldwide population to discount the role of the individual. There's a lot of movement these days toward the idea of humankind as a collective, and indeed you even hear that within law of attraction circles. Well, we're all source energy, we're all one, and that's true, we are all one. But the thing that people don't seem to understand is that we are all one while we are simultaneously all individuals, and that's a great thing. I mean, it seems like a paradox, but it really is true. We're all one and we are all individuals, and that individuality is the reason why we have to be responsible for our own thoughts. But that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
It's a privilege, right? It's why we can be responsible for our own thoughts. Thank goodness someone else isn't responsible for my thoughts.
Otherwise, we would all be uniform. Imagine if we were all exactly the same. That'd be a pretty dull existence, really.
Yeah, that's true. So everyone is responsible for the thoughts they think and the things that they choose as their objects of attention.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a sentence worth highlighting there. It
It
is in italics, so it's an important one. All of you have deep within you an understanding that you are here as joyous creators, and you are always being called toward that fulfillment. But there's not a long list of requirements that you're expected to accomplish. Your intention was to let your physical environment inspire your never-ending ideas of expansion or desire, and then you intended to align with the source energy within you for the achievement of those ideas. In other words, you knew your desires would be born from your participation here. And then once the desire was alive within you, you could focus your thoughts until you accomplished a feeling of expectation, and then your desire would come to fruition.
It's a nice description. I mean, they often...
It is, isn't it?
They often describe in various ways how the process works and feels. That's one that, I mean, it is a little bit abstract. A lot of their stuff is abstract. But even so, in its abstractness, it still feels real. I mean, that one, you can kind of feel it happening as they're describing it.
Yeah. The primary role that others around you play in that equation for creation is they provide variety from which your desires are born. It was not your intention to measure your value against the value of others, but to be inspired to new ideas by the combination of things going on around you. Any comparison to others is only meant to inspire expanded desire. It was never intended as a means to diminish you or to discount your value.
I have so many feelings about that one, including my own feelings about my concerns, not concerns, but my doubts and my I don't knows about what it was like coming in here. I mean, you and others talk about how maybe there's things like sacred contracts. We have certain intentions when we come into the world. And I think to myself, well, okay, I hear what Abraham is saying. I've heard this kind of message before. I still have a problem with it, not because I think it's wrong, but just because I don't really remember what happened before I came here. I don't remember it at all, so I have trouble latching onto any suggestion about what it was like before I got here. Yeah. I just don't remember any of it.
Yeah, and that's what I always say is that, like the idea of sacred contracts, do I know that? No, I don't know it. But it's a choice that I make because it helps me feel better.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's a story that feels better.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story that feels better to me to say, well, for some reason, because I wanted to learn something maybe, or teach something, or experience something, I agreed to have this experience when I came here. And the experience might be that someone has treated me really badly, right? That's a much better story for me than to just say, I came here and now I'm a victim and someone has treated me badly.
I agree. It's a better story. Yeah.
Yeah. And isn't that what it's all about? It's like just, with any beliefs that we have that we can't prove.
It's true. Yeah.
Right. We choose the beliefs we have hopefully because they're making us feel better.
And as you pointed out a few moments ago, nearly all of the evidence of any kind that we deal with is circumstantial. Very little of it is empirical. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like we get a whole lot of opportunities to prove empirically one way or another what we were remembering, what we knew before we came here. To the best of my knowledge, the amount of empirical evidence we have one way or the other is none.
The little, what do you call it? The little like dent above your lip and under your nose.
Yeah, that's right.
It actually has a name. It's called a philtrum. It's called a philtrum. And the story is there's a Jewish midrash. I'm sure there's other traditions that have the story, but I've heard this story. The story is that right before you came to earth, that's where the angel touched you and made you forget everything. So that you came in with no memory of what happened, like you're saying, right? So that's a story about that. Well, I don't have a very big one at all. My dent is very small. And so we always joke about it here. I go, I remember everything.
No. Oh, that's cute. I like that.
To touch me and I moved away.
You ducked.
I ducked.
Of course, you have this indentation on the top of your head, but still.
That's right. How's that soft spot doing? Your life is not about what you will do after work, on the weekend, or after you retire. Oh, see, now this is important, right? Your life is not about what you will do after work, on the weekend, or after you retire. Your life is happening now and is really represented by how you are feeling now. If your work feels unpleasant or unfulfilling or hard, it is not because you are standing in the wrong place, but because your perspective is clouded by contradicted thought.
I got to interrupt because you're about to enter a really good one here. And that last phrase, your perspective is clouded by contradicted thought. Again, that ties directly into a conversation that was going on Facebook over the last 24 hours or so, in which somebody had posted, one of those posts where they're unhappy and negative stuff going on and so forth. And she's been trying so hard to apply it for the last week or so and not getting anywhere, yada, yada, yada. And she just feels like she's walking around in a fog. And there it is right there. Your perspective is clouded by contradicted thought. It's very clear she's in a fog because she's contradicting her own desires with her thought process.
Exactly. Wow. That's powerful.
It is. Yeah.
And then we've heard this over and over. It's worth repeating. It's in italics. You cannot have a happy ending to a journey that has not been pleasant along the way. The end absolutely does not justify the means.
So that alone convinces me that Abraham's messages are real, because I have always thought that the whole idea of ends justifying the means was the most ridiculous concept on the face of the earth. So thank you, Abraham, for confirming what I believe.
Abraham says the means, or the path along the way, always brings about the essence of an identical ending.
Yeah. That first sentence,
really
too. That first sentence, you cannot have a happy ending to a journey that has not been pleasant along the way. That's a little bit confusing to somebody who's still trying to get a feel for this, because that person still believes that they are subject to whatever happens to them. So if it's not pleasant, that just happened to them. So that means they can't have a happy ending.
Well, there are a lot of thoughts that contradict that, right? Because people think, well, I know this is going to be really, for instance, I use this one. It's going to be really hard work, but it's going to be worth it. But here's the thing is, you can have something that qualifies as really hard work and isn't unpleasant.
True.
You can have, we're not saying that you never are going to work hard or you're never going to use effort. It's the alignment that we're wanting to make sure is there. You can work as hard as you want, as long as you want. We just want you to be aligned. And
pleasant is what you make of it.
Right. That's the thought that's not contradicted.
Right. What pleases you? I mean, literally, you please yourself anytime you choose to. I please myself anytime I choose to. I sometimes have to remind myself of that. Not always easy to remember, but that is the fact.
Yeah, we often depend on everything on the exterior to be doing that for us. And it's not the case. It's our responsibility. So that was a great segment today.
It is. It's a really good segment and good reminders. And it's just one more time reinforcing we are in control of something that for the longest time we thought we were not in control of. And that is our feelings. I still just every single day seems an amazing discovery of that. And part of me is just still saying, I don't know if I believe it, but it seems to be true. But I don't know if I believe it, but it seems to be true.
It's so empowering.
It is, yeah.
Because if I have to depend on everyone else to make me happy today by their behavior, then I'm powerless.
Yeah, I'm dead.
Right? It's like, I hope everyone behaves because I'm really tired of being frustrated. Well, no. Just take it on yourself and just choose to be in a better feeling place.
Well, we'll have to carry on this conversation this afternoon, but we get to do that, Cindie. I mean, we now get to do two a day on Wednesday, so I look forward to it, and I hope that you'll be here, and I hope that our listeners will as well. By the way, once again, subscribe if you haven't done it. You still got time. It's not, it's like the last minute call. Our phones are still available. You can still make the call. Well, you can still align yourself, and you can still sign up and be a subscriber. And in the meantime, we'll say we hope you join us again next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.